This is Smallzy Surgery.
And the Oscar goes to
Billie Eilish. I know how to feel.
Crying out loud, your heart is a maze.
What's up? I'm Finneas.
Did you figure me out?
And you're listening to Smallzy on Nova.
Finneas, great to see you,
Great
sir.
to see you too. Thanks for coming to my studio.
No, thank you for having me inside the. Is it the creative den, the creative dungeon? What do we call it?
Yeah, so we're here. This is one room in a kind of a complex of rooms. Me and one of my creative partners, Aaron Forbes, rent this space in LA that's like many rooms and a live room, and we do all of my rehearsals here and Billy's rehearsals here, and I did all the recording sessions for this album here.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Like so these walls, if they could talk. What was here beforehand? Was it a studio beforehand, or did you convert?
We rent it from. It was prefabbed. We've had to do some work and change some stuff, but it was already a studio, which was nice.
Well, congratulations on everything to date.
Hey, thank you.
And I want to say pre-congratulations on the impending release of the record.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm really excited. I'm really proud of this record, and I also made this album recently enough that I don't hate it yet.
Okay, is that a thing that happens?
I'm not a person that like hates all of my old music, but sometimes you make something and then you listen to it a billion times, and then it sort of like sits around to wait for like a release cycle, and by the time it comes out, you're already so deep into the next thing that you look back at it and you're like, oh, I feel a little disconnected from that, which is like, again, I still can appreciate it, but I finished this album in July. So it's only...
Is it a little bit like chopping up your own voice when you first hear your voice, you're like, ugh, and then you come to like it, and then you accept it, not necessarily like it, but then you hear it so much, you're like, oh, do I really sound like that?
And then a couple years later, you hear it, and you're like, I used to talk like that? Like, that's
I sounded like that?
Yeah. I was just having this conversation with some friends of mine yesterday. I was like, I think a lot of my solo music has aged really badly, but usually the ballads are the ones that I'm like, oh, I feel good about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Album title, For Crying Out Loud.
Yeah.
What are we angry or crying out loud about? How are we hitting it? Because I was discussing the title on the way over, and it can be like, oh, for crying out loud. Or it can be, for crying out loud. Or it can be like, oh, just for crying out loud.
It can
be all
There's
three
of those.
ways. There's one I'm hurt, there's one I'm angry, there's one I'm just disappointed.
That's true. It can be all of this.
Where are you?
I'm assuming, by the way, because you seem to have interpreted it correctly, that For Crying Out Loud is an Australian... You say it over there?
It is it is it's because it's not an Americanism, is it?
It kind of is.
Okay.
I only bring it up because Australians have about 500,000 phrases that we don't know.
Yes.
And so I thought, I should make sure that they're also saying this one, because
we definitely do.
You have so many that we don't know that I was like, maybe we'll have one or two that are not commonplace in Australia. But yeah, it's just a phrase of exasperation. And that song was the final song that I wrote for this body of work, was the song that ended up being called For Crying Out Loud. And I just liked it's like kind of a love song. It's kind of about like being in an argument in a relationship. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of kind of, the album is sort of about tension in relationships, whether it's friends or loved ones or whatever. It's kind of about tension and conflict, and so I thought the song title was sort of broad enough to cover the whole record.
Yeah, no, I like that.
That's how an album cover, an album title should be. Is that like an album title should be like all encompassing of the record.
Okay, I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
How are you? So this is second solo. How are you navigating? Stepping into the spotlight, also producing, like you wear so many hats,
right?
You know what? My question is, what hat do you enjoy the most, and is it possible to wear all of them forever, or is there at some stage you would like to put one hat down and just wear another hat?
Great question. That's awesome. I think the hat I enjoy the most is the hat of being like out at a dinner with my buddies. That's that's my like nirvana. That's when I'm really feeling great.
Yeah.
that being said, all the creative endeavors I'm really happy about. I love being a producer. I love being a songwriter. I love being an artist, so to speak. One of the things in making this album that I kind of knew was like, let's say I'm making an album for Billy or any other artist. I'm kind of in the instrumentalist hat, right? I'm producing the record, and then I pick up a guitar and I play it. I pick up a bass guitar and I play it. I sit at the piano, I play it. I program a drum beat. So it's like, that's a whole 10 hats right there.
Yeah.
So on this album, I was like, well, all right, but I'm also the singer now. I'm also going to be like the performer of all these songs.
Yep.
That's 2 hats added, and I was like, so let's take off some hats.
Yeah.
And so I
Because
brought
no one looks good
in
when you're
40
double stacking hats.
100%.
Yeah.
So I brought in. I have all these friends that are really talented producer-songwriters.
Yep.
And I basically sort of invited them to do sessions with me. I was like, let's do some sessions from my record. They'll be short days. They'll be easy. They'll be fun.
Yeah.
Then we did 14 days total, but not even in a row. We did like a week. Then we took some time off.
Yeah.
Then we did like another 4 days. Took some time off. Did another 4.
Yeah.
Did like 1. So, it ended up being just like such a fun way to make music, and it allowed me to, I think, be a little bit more free of like my own limitations.
Okay.
I'm not the best drummer. I'm not the best guitarist. I'm not the best pianist. So it's like I have a room full of people all worrying about their kind of role.
Yep.
And then I get to be like the best version of a songwriter and a producer that I can be.
How do you switch hats? In the sense that when you're producing someone else's record and then moving to your record, do you find you're innately doing the same thing in every room, or are you maybe leaning on Billy going, you tell me your story and let's tell your story? Or are we're just because we're all human, and when we're creative, you're creating from your own view of the world. How does one separate those?
Great question.
I've asked a few of those.
Yeah. The first preface will be that I kind of purposefully am not usually making an album for myself and an album for Billy at the same time.
Okay.
But I was making the score for this television show, Disclaimer, that Alfonso Cuarón directed and wrote, at the same time as making Billy's album. So I was hopscotching between being Billy's producer collaborator and being the composer for this TV show. So, and that was okay to me because those are such different roles.
Totally.
So I get in a room with Billy. She tells me some story about how she's feeling. We write about it.
Yep.
I go turn on this TV show to work on. I'm seeing a scene of these 2 characters. I'm very inspired, right?
Yep.
But to kind of answer your question, like, it's very, very important to me that my solo music doesn't sound like I'm trying to repeat myself in what I do with Billy. And so part of the way I do that is I just sort of separate it. I work on Billy's album until it's done, and then it's time to do mine. And I'm able to kind of not double up.
Yeah, credit to you.
Thanks.
Because it is a skill that not many producers have been able to step out on their own and been able to navigate different sounds that people don't just go, oh, that sounds like, oh, maybe that's just part of a session that was done over there.
There are some really talented producers who my qualm is that I can hear them.
Yeah. Influence.
And they're amazing. Like the first time I hear this producer, I don't want to name names because they're great, but you hear a producer and you go, this is unbelievable.
Yep.
And then you hear a different artist and you go, I think this is the same producer.
They worked with the same person.
And that kind of bums me out because to me that's the role of a producer should be to enhance what the artist is doing, but to be invisible, you know?
Ooh, okay. I like that.
I worked on a couple tracks for Tovlo, and I'm such a fan of Tovlo that to me that was a great challenge, a great opportunity to not do my thing.
To Finneas her, right?
I was like I
it would be you would stand out straight away, right?
I want to make a Tovlo song.
Yeah.
And listen, you can listen to Bikini Porn, which is one of those songs, and maybe you can think, oh, that sounds like Finneas, but the goal was not to. The goal was to sound like them. One of my favorite compliments I've ever gotten was from, I think, Michael Clifford from 5 Seconds of Summer. It was a room full of all of them. So it was either Michael or it was Ashton. I know what they look like.
They
I
were
just can't
Australian.
remember.
Yeah, they were
I can't
one of the
remember
Australian.
which of those two guys said
Yep.
the thing to me.
Yep.
Don't think I'm confusing them.
No,
I
no,
just
no,
can't
no,
remember
no.
which one said it. There was a period of time where I was working in a studio next to their studio. But anyway, I think Michael said, "Hey, I was listening to that Girl in Red song, Serotonin, and I was like, this song sounds great. Who produced this?" And I checked the credits, and you're on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, because
I
I don't want people to know.
Instantaneous. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm happy to have my name in the thing, but
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want you to hear it and go, did the guy that does Billy do this song?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to give away the sauce.
Now, you're also, as you mentioned there, have scored a show.
Have scored a show.
That's a tick off the bucket list, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Such a treat.
Yeah.
Such a fun experience.
Yeah, completely different to making, I'll say pop music.
Oh, my God,
is
so
it?
different.
Yeah.
Especially this score, because this is like one of those cases. This is a big privilege in my life. I got to know Alfonso through Billy's music. Billy,
Okay.
he has a daughter named Bu Cuaron, and she probably introduced him to Billy's music years ago.
Yep.
The first time I met him was in 2018. They came to a show in Italy, and we got to know each other, and we started talking about music. And it turns out Alfonso is such a knowledgeable guy about music.
Sure.
And we started sending each other playlists. And then he called me during lockdown, during COVID, and he was like, "I think I'm going to do this TV show. Do you want to score it?" And I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "I've never scored a TV show." And he was like, "I've never made a TV show, so it's gonna be fine.
We can do it together. That's great.
And then I was like, "Well, send me the kind of music you're hearing in your head for this."
Yep.
And it was all like orchestral, it was all classical orchestral.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Alfonso, I don't know how to do any of this." So I spent about a year learning how to do that. So it was like going to college for a year. It was amazing.
That's insane.
It was so fun.
So the Grammy, the Academy, and now maybe an Emmy on the way.
Listen.
You're halfway to an EGOT, sir.
Listen,
Maybe 3/4.
I am such a lucky person to get to do all these different art forms, and I have to be clear. I never thought we'd win Grammys. I never thought we'd win Oscars. So I certainly am not like trying to collect the Infinity Stone.
But do you have a Broadway musical inside you?
Yes.
Yes, you do.
But because I love musicals.
So, who
not
doesn't?
to get a trophy.
No.
Like,
of course.
again,
Of
that
course.
would be sweet, but
Yeah.
like you could, okay, here's a great, yeah.
Go.
All right. If you could say, "Hey, we'll just give you a Tony,
Yeah.
but you never even make a musical."
No.
I'd be like, no. I'd rather never get the award and make the thing
agree.
than get an award for not doing
I
it.
totally agree.
So that I just want to be clear.
No, I
But I
completely
hear you.
agree. Yeah, no, I just know you're a creative genius, right? And you would be trying to collect the Infinity Stones.
That's very sweet of you.
and to have the big gauntlet there.
That's very sweet of you.
What happened? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you haven't collected them.
I snap my fingers
Goes
and
and then-
Lin-Manuel Miranda disappears.
You're going to be back in the country.
I love Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Who doesn't?
By the way.
Who doesn't?
I know Lin and I love Lin, and that just seemed like the funniest name
That
to
was
say.
fantastic.
Okay.
You're going to be back in Australia.
Yes.
What's the first thing you're going to do when you get back with the tour?
Okay, I'll go through them.
Okay. Oh, you've got a list.
Sydney,
Yep.
I feel like we usually land in the morning.
Yeah.
That's how the flights work.
Yep.
Walrus Cafe.
Okay.
Love Walrus Cafe.
Yep.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Then Melbourne, probably go to a place called Cam's Kiosk,
Okay.
which is my favorite restaurant in Melbourne. Brisbane, huge controversial take. Nobody in Brisbane is going to like that I'm saying this. South Bank, I love that.
Okay.
crazy
Who doesn't love a
pool.
beach in the middle of
Oh
the
my
city?
God. And it's free. You guys don't understand. We live in America. It's free. There's like no lifeguards. There's no rules. The water's warm.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I've heavily endorsed.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
So there's
I
my
love that. I love that
stops
you
per
got.
city.
I love you got your East Coast sorted.
Aussies are watching this and they're like, "This guy sucks."
Yeah, they're
But
like, it's the tourists, of course. They're
Seriously.
the only ones that go to.
But I like it.
That's it, man. Well, congratulations. I can't wait for the world to hear the record.
Thank you.
One final. In what tone is the album title? Just so I remember, it's more of a.
For crying out loud.
Yeah, it's just a.
It's a kind of a soft.
It's a soft for crying out loud. You're
Yeah.
not angry,
No, it's just
and you're not
kinda
sad. It's just.
Like, man, that's the way it is. Huh?
That's it.
It's your pet dog has destroyed a shoe.
Yep.
And you caught him and you said don't do that again, and then he did it again.
Yeah.
And you're like.
And you're a little bit. I'm sort of responsible for
Fool
it.
me twice.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. I get it. Mate, pleasure. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks for your time.
Smallzy Surgery.
Is a Nova podcast. For more great shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.